y'all. Join in. Come on in. Come on through. I'm inviting some people. And you can invite some people too. Drop emoji or say hey in the comments. Let me know you can hear me okay. Hey, I can't see everyone, but if you drop an emoji or a comment, I will be able to see you and say hello. Hey. I missed you on your live. So if you haven't already, please share this out. I'm trying to make sure that I got everything together on all the interwebs. Getting my internet life. Thanks for your patience. So today is Saturday, and so I wanted to come through and do a little bit of a Self-Care Saturday chat, specifically around the struggle with self-care, because as women who are busy and we wear so many hats and we do the most, sometimes it is challenging for us to differentiate the difference and the importance between doing the most and doing what's most important. Hey, Ebony. So I wanted to come through and share something with you that would help you get over this self-care struggle that so many of us have. And before I dig in, I would like to introduce or reintroduce myself in case this is your first time joining us for a chat. My name is Tiffany Huff Struthers. I am the founder of the Tiffany Huff Experience, and I work with women specifically to help you recover from your setbacks, then share your experiences and your story to make an impact. And of course, if you are struggling with self-care, then it's going to be very challenging for you to move from this place of your setback to making an impact. So if you are challenged with, or you have ever been challenged with self-care, you can drop an emoji, put your hand up, a heart. Let me know that this is something that resonates with you. It's not foreign for you, right? What I have found is that we find ourselves putting self-care or putting ourselves on our to-do lists, right? So we create these to-do lists. There are so many things that are important, and we decide that either A, we'll put ourselves on the list last, or we don't put ourselves on the list at all because there are so many other things that are most important. So we end up struggling with our self-care, or we find ourselves doing things that are actually bad for us as acts of self-care because it's all that we can muster up the time, the energy, and often the money to do, right? So you take yourself out for drinks, you take yourself out for dinner, or you indulge in something that, even though it feels good in the moment, is not necessarily good for you, mind, body, or spirit otherwise, right? Because of your to-do lists. So I really want to challenge you to consider the importance of a to-don't list. This is Your to-don't list should be created even before you start to consider what you will put on your to-do list, because your to-don't list is going to help you prioritize your to-do list, specifically starting with yourself first. Your to-don't list is going to be what establishes your non-negotiables and your boundaries as you determine, or to reinforce, what you've determined is most important in your life. Right? So if your health and your wealth are part of what's most important because your children or your work or your business are important to you, then your health and your wealth needs to become a priority. That means that there should be things on your to-don't list that are not going to jeopardize your health and your wealth. What is that for you? Because when you make this clear, when you have your to-don't list and it is standing, you're going to be much more intentional about what goes on your to-do list, and you're going to be less challenged, right? You're not going to be on the struggle bus when it comes to self-care. So if you struggle with self-care, I really want you to consider whether or not you have a to-don't list. And if you don't have a to-don't list, then you need to consider creating a to-don't list. And this is something that you need to do today. Like, don't put it on your to-do list for tomorrow, or don't write this down and think about it and then not follow through. This is really important. This could actually be one of the determining factors for whether or not this month, which just started, is a success for you, but also whether or not this year is a success for you. And ultimately, if your life is going to be successful or not. If you don't have boundaries, if you don't have non-negotiables, it basically means that you just do anything, right? Like the old folks say, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And so I want you to put this into perspective. Hey, Lisa, when you don't have any non-negotiables and you don't have any boundaries, even if you set a goal, you will be easily distracted, and it will be much easier for you to begin to doubt and not do. Because when you get distracted, it's easier for you to start to doubt whether or not the goal is achievable, and doubt leads to not doing. And so if you consider, some of the goals that you've set, if you don't have those non-negotiables, if you don't have a to-don't list, then when something arises, it'll be much easier for you to say, you know what, let me go and do what's going on over here. You won't be able to determine the good things from the God things. You won't be able to determine the difference between doing the most and what's most important. And then you will always be tired. You'll find yourself struggling, and self-care will never become a priority for you. Creating your to-don't list is a powerful, powerful act of self-care. And it's one that we too often overlook. So I really want you to grab hold of this as you start this month. Because for many of us, this is the 2019 do-over, right? We decided that January didn't go right, so we're going to get it together for 2019, starting with February. So if that is your plan, if you've already said that to yourself, then do this act of self-care today and create your to-don't list. What are some things that would go on your to-don't list? Well, it depends on you, right? This is very personal. This is something that is going to be dependent upon where you are, who you are, and what your priorities are. So I can share some examples of mine with you, and this might help you determine what yours are. So one thing that I don't do is sleep with my cell phone plugged up next to my bed. If you sleep with your cell phone plugged next to your bed, you'll be very easily distracted. When it's time to go to sleep, you'll find yourself being disturbed by the vibrations and the lights and the buzzes and the notifications. So I don't do that. A lot of people say they do it because they use their phone for an alarm clock. Get an alarm clock. People have had alarm clocks for years before they had cell phones. So if you need an alarm clock, then invest in an alarm clock and give yourself the space as an act of self-care not to be constantly disturbed or to never have rest. Because the reality is that you need to sleep your way to the top. So if you're not getting enough rest, then you're not going to have the energy, right? Your health and wealth are not becoming a priority, and you're not going to get to where you're trying to go. So that's an example of something on my to-don't list. Don't sleep with your phone plugged up next to your bed. Put it somewhere where you can get to it, but where it's not going to be right there disturbing you constantly. Something else to put on your to-don't list. Don't take calls or texts before or after a certain time. There are people who know not to call me before 9 a.m. because I need that time to get my morning together. I don't want other people's stuff to impact my day before I can get my day up and going. Again, it's an act of self-care. Someone else might not feel like that's important, but if, like I said, if you're distracted from the moment your day starts or from the time you get up with everybody else's stuff, it's going to be much more challenging for you to do the things that you know you need to do. It's going to be much more challenging for you to do what's most important because you'll end up doing the most. And there's a huge difference between the two. So consider some things that you need to put on your to-don't list before you get all consumed and overwhelmed with your to-do list, because your to-don't list is what's going to keep your to-do list aligned with what's most important. And remember that when you create your to-don't list, it's for your best. So the non-negotiables and the boundaries that you set are not for anyone else, and they don't move dependent upon the situation or the person. And just to give you some perspective, if you think about someone who is driving, right, and they get distracted. So someone texts them, or they're eating something in the car, maybe they're drinking, maybe they're looking, or they're not paying attention to the road. The yellow lines on the road do not move for them. So if you're driving and you're texting, or you're looking down, or you're trying to pick something up and you swerve into the next lane because you're distracted, then you run the risk of negatively impacting someone else and yourself. The boundaries don't move. The same thing is true with your to-don't list. If you set those boundaries and non-negotiables, when you get distracted, those lines should not move. When you encounter certain people, those lines should not move. They should be very firm lines, because otherwise you negatively impact yourself and you negatively impact others. So if you've not done anything else for yourself today or this weekend or this week, then I strongly suggest that you start with creating a to-don't list. And if you need some assistance with being able to do that, then I encourage you to join the free challenge I created. It's the Reclaiming My Time Challenge. This will help you to really get some clarity around your to-don't list, your non-negotiables, and those things that are secretly sucking up your time because you don't have your to-don't list, because you are always doing the most. So if you're interested in the 3-day challenge, hey, Ashley, if you're interested in the 3-day challenge, you can, on Facebook, click the link in the title of this video. On Instagram, you can grab the link in my bio and you can get started. It is self-paced, so you do it on your own time, but it will really help you in this process and start your journey to putting an end to the self-care struggle, because we don't have time for that. We have things to do, but we have to be very careful about doing what's most important and not focusing so heavily on doing the most. So grab that link either in my bio or in the title of the video and start your journey to creating your to-don't list, reclaiming your time, and putting it into your self-care struggle. Does anybody have any questions, final thoughts? I like to keep these videos brief, so give you the gems so you can get going, not taking up too much of your time. And especially if you're in a space right now where you can begin to work on your to-don't, I would love for you to do that. But if you have questions about some of the things that might belong on your to-don't list or where to begin or anything else that I mentioned, now is the time to speak up. Hey, Zoma, how are you? Otherwise, I will look forward to hearing your feedback about the Reclaiming Your Time Challenge, or you can tag me on Facebook or Instagram with some of the things that you're going to put on your to-don't list. I would love to see them. I'm at the Tiffany Huff on both platforms. I'll see y'all in these internet streets. Have a good one.